Yo, 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 yo. What is going on, everybody? So, thought I'd pop in with a little quick live stream. So, it won't be too long, I would say. But before we get into it, as you could definitely read by the title of this and the thumbnail itself, that Lovie Smith is out as Texans head coach. I just put a short about it not that long ago. So, I have the recommend you guys checking it out. But for those who want to kind of just want to hop in or if you want to join the membership program, the link is down below. At the same time, but what's good? Yo, what's good, Arku? But let's just kind of get down to the nitty gritty. Yeah. So Lovie Smith is out as the Texans head coach. It's their second one. Second one and done coach. I mean, we all know that the very first one was David Culley. Obviously, you know, how do I even want to describe this? And this, I'm trying to get my sheesh, but yeah, but shout out to the 5 that's in here, but that's besides the point. But like I said, I mean, it's just one of those things. It's like I think most of us knew it was going to happen one way or the other. Just what the Texans have been or what the record says, in terms of at the same time. But you know, yeah, okay, yes, I say that. But right now, we're not going to be talking about the Eagles right now, or nor the Cowboys. But kind of want to get some breaking news out to. Hopefully, just kind of really get my thoughts on things, especially as an outsider, being a longtime Eagles fan. And, this has comes, well, when the news broke, it's like, I'm thinking to myself, when I first made the shorts, it's like, yeah, I think we all kind of knew it was going to happen one way or the other. And it's just one of those things. It's like, Lovie Smith, for what I've seen in a very short sample size, from what I've heard and just what I've seen, or like I said, I've seen like a short sample size, so I really can't say throughout this entire 17 game season. But from what I do know, and I know my buddy Coach Sean could probably say the same because, Lovie Smith does not have a good track record as a head coach. I mean, we saw that during this time with the Chicago Bears. The only time he started to reach the Super Bowl was with Grossman in 2006. Didn't do well at the college level either, with the final line and then comes back to here. I think he's definitely going to get a job somewhere as probably a defensive coordinator. I think he should stay that way. There's some coordinators that just do not make out as well head coaches. Unfortunately, Lovie Smith is one of them. And it's like, I don't know, man. I don't know, man. It's crazy to say the least of just, I don't know. Like, it's really not say crazy, but we know, like I said, go back to what I said before. We all knew this was going to happen. And I even tweeted this out that I appreciate that. Tell Jeff, say, if he does ever want to come by, like he's more than welcome to, probably not. But like I said, I mean, it's just one of those things. It's like, I haven't even showed, tweeted this out not that long ago. Unless the Texans don't see any progression with whoever they're going to bring this next head coach, at some point, my thinking is just like at some point the McNair family is going to have to sell the team because I feel like the McNair family has not really done that franchise justice. I mean, throughout this entire young franchise history, yes, we have seen teams that come in since before. Probably one of the younger teams, expansion teams, because obviously, the Panthers come in 1995. But I do have the article kind of pulled up at the same time. But, this is written by DJ. Well, I don't know why I'm going to butcher his name, but, so in other words, basically this article is going to say, the Houston Texans fired Coach Lovie Smith Sunday night, hours after the team finished 3-13-1 in his first season. And obviously, Chairman and CEO Cal McNair, I think most football fans could kind of get an idea or where we stand with him, mostly for Texans fans anyways. But he says, quote, "We are grateful for Smith's leadership and character, and we wish him the best moving forward," which for me, that one part is true. But then again, my other secondary thing is he's saying the absolute, a load of crock, for lack of a better term, because like I said, let's go back to what I said about the McNair family, who I think, if you go back to what happened to the Deshaun Watson stuff, like I said, I want to go not too in detail because obviously you don't want to get the stream demonetized and stuff like that. And it's just one of those things. It's like, I don't know, but like I said, the McNair family has not really done this franchise justice. Who's been around since like the early 2000s? He still had. I mean, if we look at actually, now that I think about it, let's kind of take a look of what they had since coming into the league at the same time, because my goodness, let me see. So they've been, like I said, they've been in the yeah. I mean, obviously, like I said, playing in the I would say weak division, but kind of very inconsistent. I don't like I said, I don't think he should be a head coach at all, but I think he should definitely be a defensive coordinator for sure and stay that way, because like I said, go back to what I said before. Lovie Smith, for me, like him, there's a couple of people I'm probably forgetting, that just certain coordinators just do not make really good head coaches. Like I said, Lovey's one of them, and you probably know who I'm also going to be mentioning. It's kind of put two together, but this team being in the league since 2002, let's take a look at what they had or what their roster will look like. I mean, one of them in particular was David Carr, was pretty much the human punching bag, being like the number 1 overall pick. And to be quite honest, and the fact that the defense we'll see how that goes. But going back to what I said, the Texans, especially coming into the league in 2002, had Don Capers as their head coach. And I will talk about the list of head coaches that they had. Obviously you had David Carr as their starting quarterback. Obviously, not great. They also had Jonathan Wells as one of the running backs, fullback Jerry Baxter, wide receivers Corey Bradford, Jabbar Gaffney. Stats not looking great. Jabari Holloway. It's just not names you would expect to see for a team that just came into the league in 2002. But like I said, the one name, like I mentioned, I highlighted in particular is David Carr. I think we all know just how many times that man is getting sacked. Technically, that's Las Vegas. But, and speaking of which, I actually did put a video about that with all that news and rumors surrounding Mike McDaniel. I highly recommend you guys check that out as well. But let me just check, see if I can actually spell coaching right. But like I said, whenever like I said, and I even tweeted this, like I said, when I tweeted out, and I'm going to stand by it. If the Texans don't show any progression, like I said, whoever brings as their next head coach or wherever the coaching staff they have and continue to flop, which they have been doing since 2002, at some point, the McNair family has to realize, let somebody else take ownership of this team and, and mold it the way they see fit. Because unfortunately for me, I don't think Nick Caserio is that bad of a GM. I mean, I think he has drafted well for the Texans. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt, so he'll stay for me. But the McNair family has to sell the team. I'm sorry. There's just no way in hell for a team like the Texans to be, let's be real, bad. Well, not for so long. I mean, they have made a couple postseason appearances, which is kind of shocking to say. All right. Since 2002. So this is going to be very interesting. So for those, like I said, when I mentioned about talking about head coaches, since they've been, like I said, they've been in the league since 2002. Obviously, you had Dom Capers, who went so far from 2002 to 05. So far, had a racked up 18 and 46. That's a sub 300 winning record. Yeah, that was 2006. Surprised that I still remember that. And the fact you had Rex Grossman as your quarterback. And it's just, I don't know. Like I said, with this firing, like I said, I think we all knew it was coming, knowing the fact that the McNair family and Caserio, like, it's just like, I don't think Lovie really was the problem, because there's if you really look at the Texans team as a whole of where the issues lie, one of them was quarterback. That's for sure, because Davis Mills ain't it. Another is Kyle Allen or Jack Driscoll. You have three quarterbacks that are, let's be real, scrubs at this point. Defense was actually okay. I mean, Derek Stingley actually had a really good season, but it's just not enough. And they always have issues of closing out games. And to me, I think they just should have kept Lovie as a defensive corner and actually try to go after an offensive-minded coach, which, that's kind of the new standard nowadays for some NFL teams. Look at Miami. Mike McDaniel, offensive-minded head coach coming from the Kyle Shanahan tree. Obviously, Nick Sirianni. Also, to name one of them is offensive-minded, even though, we'll just say, but it's just, they went through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Made that 7 coaches since 2002 in their very young history. And, just like I said, going no further, like I said, Don Capers from 02 to 05, in 64 games has racked up a record of 18 wins to 46 losses. That's a 281 winning percentage. Not great. Very horrible. Yeah, Gary Kubiak from 06. Yeah, from Gary Kubiak from 06 to 13 in 125 games, 61 wins to 64 losses, a 488 winning percentage. So Wade Phillips, it really didn't see much. Short sample size with 3 games, just not in, not even a full season by the looks of it, according to Pro Football Reference. And the most infamous name in terms of coaching for the Houston Texans, that's Bill O'Brien from 2014 to 2020. In 100 games, racked up surprisingly, the only coach on here in the history of the Texans that actually has an above 500 winning percentage, which is shocking. Just how much, now Bill O'Brien, I know Texas fans do have their issues with, and I think a lot of football fans do have issues with. But if you just have him as, say, offensive coordinator or what have you, I think you should be just fine. Because for me, I think, I don't know. Like, the Texans is just, at some point, actually, now that I think about it, they only had, let's see. So now, since I did mention the playoff history, obviously, they have not won any championships in their very young history. They've been to the postseason since. They've been there in 2011. They faced the Baltimore. They took the loss against the Baltimore Ravens, but they beat the Cincinnati Bengals. Then 2012 come along in the division. Actually, yeah, in the wild card, beats the Bengals, but loses in the divisional round. But I appreciate that. But if you appreciate everybody that's come through, make sure you hit the like button, hit that subscribe button as well. And obviously didn't, I think, missed the postseason for 3 years straight from according to Pro Football Reference. Then 2015 comes along. Obviously they take a huge L against the Kansas City Chiefs. Then 2016, they beat the Raiders on the wild card, but unfortunately, they took the L against the Patriots in the divisional round. 2018, they take the L against the Colts, which surprisingly that the Colts even weren't in the playoffs to begin with, but that's besides the point. And then 2019, you had the wild card. They took the win overtime against the Buffalo Bills. I think this is at the time. This is before they took Josh. This was, I think 2 years. I think Josh Allen's not rookie season, but his sophomore season, if I'm not mistaken. But someone got to correct me if I'm wrong. And then the divisional round, against the Kansas City Chiefs. So they had not seen the postseason. Well, obviously the playoffs, I would say, since 2019, but it was in sporadic appearances. It's not really you would say call consistency. The only time you ever see consistency when it comes to this team making the playoffs was 2011 to 2012. They missed out on the playoffs in 2013, 2014. But like I said, they did make it in 2015, so they really missed out those 2 years at the same time. Then 2016, you could say that's another year of consistency with them. Unfortunately, losing the divisional round. Missed out on the postseason in 2017. Obviously, to make the postseason in 2018, but it's just quite frankly, it's really not looking good in terms of if you want to have a team as young as Houston Texans. And looking up what their 2022 roster was, I mean, look, I mean, at the time, like you had your all-time pass. Really, Matt Schaub was there. Wow, okay, that is surprising to me. Matt Schaub is their all-time passing leader, 1,951 for 3,020 for 23,221 passing yards to 124 touchdowns. And the Arian Foster, I think he was a very underrated running back in my honest opinion. On 1,454 attempts, racked up 6,472 yards and 54 touchdowns. Andre Johnson, was a really good receiver at one point, but I would say just had a little bit of an ego issue. I would say a little bit attitude issue. Because I remember, I think one part of Hard Knocks where I think him and D-Hop kind of got into it one time in practice, or I could be wrong. Someone got to let me know. Has 1,012 receptions for 13,597 yards and 64 touchdowns. All-time scoring leader for them is Chris Brown for 767 points. J.J. Watt hopefully has the great rest of his career. 122 AV. And probably the winningest coach was Gary Kubiak. I really do apologize if I'm really butchering that. But like I said, the Texas history has been, not say lackluster, but just very inconsistent in ways where, and I can remember like this is like yesterday too. I mean, they had some, if you're talking about some major draft and some bust, I mean, we know that David Carr obviously was a bust for them when he first got drafted. Obviously, like I mentioned, I kind of coined the term, he's pretty much a human punching bag in terms of just how many times that dude got sacked, even though the team around him was not great. The news, you got Brian Cushing. I think a lot of people don't remember Brian Cushing with the Houston Texans. The way I could describe Brian Cushing, was a really good player, but you had to realize too he was all hopped up on roids. I mean, you can't tell me a dude with roid rage. You can't tell me that dude has not really been, well, I would say not great. But, like I said, the Texans' young history in the last 20 years has really, like I say, been inconsistent. But they did have some decent players come and go. Like I said, D-Hop is one of them. Obviously, probably the worst trades that I've seen the Texans ever pull up. But then again, that is part of Bill O'Brien really taking that GM role, which was probably the worst mistake that the Texans would ever do. It's just, I don't know. I just like at some point, like I kind of feel bad for Texans fans. Like at some point, you're going to at least somewhat, I don't know, like just you want progression out of a team that's been around since 2002. Then again, it can't be worse. Like I said, I think it can't be worse than being a Panthers fan that has, well, not a great history either. But I mean, even though the Panthers defense, they have been a couple to, I think, one Super Bowl. Could be wrong, could be multiple. I could be wrong, but it's just if you looked at what their 2022 roster was looking like. Actually, I want to pull this up and kind of talk it down with you guys. No, nobody cares about the box score. Hey, speaking of a fellow Houston Texas fan in the chat, what's good, Dante? What's good, my guy? What is good? But Dante, if you want to come pull up, I can send you the link if you want to pull up. So, I mean, kind of give your thoughts on all this and kind of get your side on things as well. Because, I mean, Coach Dante's another guy, really awesome guy to work with. Just give me 1 second, Dante. There we go. But yeah, I'm going to have Dante come up in here. And to be quite honest, I like I said, I want to kind of get Dante's thoughts on this. And, I kind of want to see where he stands with this. And, what kind of changes would he just like I said, kind of give, from another Texans perspective. Because like I said, I'm speaking this as an outsider from being a long-time Eagles fan. And not like I said, and also general football fan in general. But if you looked at the quarterbacks, mean, Rex Burkhead actually is actually not a. Get out of here, this damn ad. But yeah, shout out to the 8 that's in the chat though. Actually, let me get to the roster. There we go. But I mean, like Jordan Atkins. I mean, the third. Like, there's a couple I want to highlight that I think the one in particular I want to highlight, especially out of this roster, is Kenyon Green. They're a 15th overall pick in the first round in this past season's draft. To me, Kenyon Green, yes, I know there's a lot of stuff to clean up as a rookie. He really didn't have the best rookie season with the Texans, but I think if you get the right head coach and the right coaching side, I think this kid could be something special to watch for the Texans. As part of that front seven, we know about Derek Stingley. I think he also had a really good season as well. I think Christian Harris too. I think very like an underrated draft pick that the Texans has had, and but quite frankly, it's just one of those things. It's just, I mean, Desmond King actually looked pretty solid as well, but it's just Petrie. I thought Petrie actually really had a really decent season with them for the Texans. Amari Rodgers, fellow Clemson alumni, obviously didn't do well with the Packers, but has made some huge plays, especially in his first game with the Texans against the Cowboys. And I actually thought he actually did pretty decently. I want to say solid, but just decently. I want to say, like I said, it's not going to be the great, but I think he also really put into perspective. It is what it is. I thought he actually played pretty well. Nico Collins. Well, how do I describe that? The dude just been, well, let's just say injury prone, because the dude has not. For fantasy owners, if you have him, I felt bad because holy crap, because it's not one of the best, I would say, in terms of want to pick. But, unfortunately, jeez, I mean, let me just take a look at this. How many they had actually had on IR? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 guys on IR. Now, that should tell you that the strength and conditioning coach is not doing their job correctly. And, look, I don't think really Lovie Smith was not bad, but you could have been in a much better direction. Just have him in as your defensive coordinator and stuff like that. But yeah, but shout out to the 5 that's in here though. Like I said, I'm not going to go too much longer. Hopefully, like I said, hopefully try to get Coach Dante up in here and kind of see how he feels about this, and kind of see where he wants to. See what the next to the head coach is. But like I said, with the Texans, though, it's going to take a while because, I mean, yeah, even Pro Football Reference even actually had their expected wins-loss a 4-win, 11 losses, 6 ties. Where the heck did the 6 ties even come? Or an 11? I said no. I'm sorry. I am completely reading that wrong. That's 0.6. But, yeah, Pat Pelleton, not great. I don't know, because I'm going to see what Dante has got to figure out what he wants. What he wants as a head coach, because, but because for me, it's just one of those. Well, I would say because I really can't say. Like I said, it's going to be hard for me to kind of give my take on this, but from what I've seen in a very short sample size, from what I've been hearing on Lovie Smith and kind of the track record he has, especially as a head coach. Like I said, not the greatest, but the Texas could have done a lot better of what they had. Now, granted, like I said, go back to what I said about Bill O'Brien. Yes, I know he has made some dumb moves in the past, but if you looked at, like I said, what I mentioned, breakdown, the fact that he has the only coach in this team's history that has at least have above 500 record during his tenure there. Well, we don't know that for sure, but I wouldn't be surprised. But then again, Texas would be the one team to really pull. But I don't know exactly what they're. For me, and this is the way I see it. I do think the Texans need to go an offensive-minded head coach, because I think like I said, I mean, actually, what's the receiving core looking like? Well, I think Philip Dorsett's decent wide receiver. I mean, not like any younger. I mean, he's about to age next year, entering his age 30 season. Brandon Cooks, I mean, signing that the fact, look at actually talking about Brandon Cooks for a little bit. It's the fact that, he was kind of annoyed that he didn't get traded. And I'm thinking to myself, why in the world did you even sign that extension anyways? Like, first of all, Brandon Cooks is still a good receiver. The fact that he's been in a Super Bowl, unfortunately, one of my players kind of knocked him out, and obviously we don't know where the memes came from. But that's besides the point. But it's just like you ran Deshaun Watson out of town, and everything. Like I said, we don't really go into much detail. Like I don't want to get this demonetized, but and all of that, it's just all this crazy stuff that's been surrounding the Houston Texans, and just one of those things. It's really kind of tough to really, evaluate where the Texans are let's just say the last couple of years. I mean, like I said, in their very brief history, they had two coaches that finished at least one and done. Now David Culley, from what I've understood, actually took over after Bill O'Brien got fired. I could be wrong, so hopefully get Dante on that. But obviously, he was kind of one and done as well. And now Lovie Smith is another guy that's kind of been one and done. But it's just like the fact that, you're going to have head coaches that are defensive minded, almost 9 times out of 10, some of them might pan out. But majority of the time, we've seen some coordinators just do not work out as head coaches. I mean, like I said, Lovie Smith was not terrible, but just, what can he do, especially with the talent that he had around him? Not to mention you had most of your defense on the IR. And obviously, like I said, Josh McDaniels is another guy, but that's a whole nother story for another day. But it's just one of those things for me. It's just how much, I would just say, the McNair family is just kind of incompetent of running a franchise. And just how, from what we've seen, and I think Dante knows it better than anybody. I mean, yeah, he knows where the Texans stand. The Texans are not going to be because, like I said, the Texans, and I mean, like I said, this is basically what I said about tweet out, and I'm going to still stand by my word. Unless there's no progression with the Houston Texans, no matter who they bring in as their head coach, if they're going to continue to have these coaches or be one and done, I think like I said, I'll do a different stream for that. Oh, actually, I will talk about it on my NFL Talk Tuesday, because I think that's going to be a very interesting topic, because we're going to be seeing some different coaching changes and coaching vacancies. But like I said, go back to what I was saying, the fact that if say hypothetically the Texans are going to continue to have these coaches being one and done, and if it's not working out for them, at some point, the McNair family is going to have to sell the team. I mean, this is no beating around the bush with that, because the McNair family has not done anything to this franchise justice, other than the fact that, ran your star quarterback out of town, which, I would not say be concerned, but I would, be skeptical of it, because the fact that the timing of what exactly, or the stuff surrounding Deshaun Watson came about, which is, for me, I'm very skeptical of it. But it's just the fact that, I don't know, it's very hard to describe the Houston Texans, because it's been just a mess of a franchise the last, since after 2019. And sporadic appearances, in certain years as well, it just has not really been the best. It's just this team, like I said, defines inconsistency. It's just like, no matter like if you look at the quarterback class, the quarterbacks that they have, like I said, Jeff Driscoll, Kyle Allen ain't nothing. Neither is, Davis Mills. Now, Davis Mills is mid. I mean, they got mid-tier kind of quarterbacks, but at some point they're going to have to go. And the fact that they even won against the Colts, that was surprising. The fact that now the Chicago Bears now hold the number 1 overall pick, because obviously the Texans winning 32-31 over the Colts, but that's another story for another day. But it's just the fact that, But you also had, like I said, you had guys that just couldn't stay healthy. And you had some guys actually had pretty good seasons, but just overall though, just has not really been what I say. I don't know. It's really kind of hard to put into words of just how or where I stand with the Texans as a general football fan. And to be quite honest, it's one of those things. I would say it's just no. Do I think Lovie Smith is going to be out of the league? Probably not. I think he's going to find another job somewhere for a team that could use a defensive coordinator. That's for sure. I still think he has a decent. I think he should be. It could be a really a decent defensive coordinator. Now that I think about it, what does even run? What does even Lovie Smith even run? Now that's my biggest concern. Okay, let's see. What is this defensive scheme kind of looking like? So obviously they had Wade Phillips. I forgot about it, but it was a 4-3. Okay, so comparing Lovie Smith does a 4-3. Yeesh. Not looking great. But yeah, according and because at the time, well, because for me, it's just one of those things, I don't know. Like, I mean, the Texans got to have to figure out what they're going to have to do next going forward because now that actually, now let's go to how do you? Because actually, I actually want to pull this up on stream. So I actually kind of give you guys a bit of an idea of what we're dealing with. Actually, speaking, while I was with the Texans in terms of what they want to do. And okay, just give me 1 second, guys, while actually we'll pull this up a little bit. Right. Oh, and that's not right. Almost clicked out of the browser. And let's actually present the screen. Get rid of the damn tab audio. And there we go. But as we see this, actually, let me zoom in so actually you can see. All right. Is this a okay? All right. I need to see something. Give me 1 second, guys. Full browser settings. Right now, I'm just trying to get this all. I don't know if you guys can see that in terms of where the teams, some of these teams stand. Oh well. I'll figure it out later. Okay. Okay. So outside of that, like I said, going back to what I said earlier, with the Texans actually winning their third game of the season, and you also had, well, first of all, should have just dropped that to the Colts, who, let's be real, not another great team either. But the positives, I mean, at least the Texans got 2 first-round picks, but now you have Chicago, not just kind of just sitting pretty now with that, obviously with an abysmal 3-14 record. Set you with number 1, and then you have number 2 go to Houston. And now, if I'm Houston being smart, go after a quarterback like a Bryce Young, CJ Stroud type of quarterback. Because let's be real, like I said, like I mentioned the names that I mentioned with Kyle Allen, Jeff Driscoll, and Davis Mills, I think that at least be a better significant upgrade over those 3 schmucks. And to be quite honest, that's just how I feel, and that's how I would have done, just for the sake of things, and be smart. Just be really smart and smart, logical that way. Now I would also say you could probably use a couple extra receivers at the same time, but not looking. I don't know if that's even possible, but I would say getting a couple extra receivers would not hurt, for lack of a better term. But we're gonna have to wait and see what the all season is going to be looking like. In terms of, actually, let me get this off screen. So sorry about that. Kind of really just showing where this team stands organizationally, because I mean, you had 7 guys on the IR. That was, well, I would say not looking great in terms of, well, just not really producing what you could. And I think too, like I said, let's go back to what I said earlier. I think most of expectors, we know where this was going to happen. And number 2, we knew that the Texans are going to be a team that was tanking. Because like I said, the three quarterbacks that I just mentioned, Jeff Driscoll, Kyle Allen, and Davis Mills, are not the answer for the Houston Texans, because there's going to be a lot more to try to build around your franchise quarterback. Because I mean, look, Jalen Petrie, I think, is a very solid secondary piece. Same with who am I thinking? Who am I drawing a mic of? Oh, Derek Stingley Jr., Christian Harris, a really good linebacker out of Alabama. But I would be, I don't know, like, I don't want to really try to be too much. But I would say, to just, but I don't know. But I want to get you guys' thoughts on all this. And because to be quite honest, though, I think they should go after quarterback, probably get a couple extra receivers if they need to. Definitely try to rebuild, not say rebuild, but try to improve with that defense a little bit. And whoever's the next head coach coming in, better be offensive minded, gets a really good defensive coordinator. I just good coaching staff in general, get a better strength and conditioning coach. This is the reason why, and this will actually will mention too, the fact that you don't have great strength and conditioning from an athlete's perspective, 9 times out of 10, you're going to find a way. Number 1, you're going to be exhausted sometimes. Number 2, you'll be more susceptible to injury if you can't really, let's be real, not play up to what you need to do. But who am I to say? Because I can say it from an athlete's perspective. And, hopefully the Texans can actually figure it out. Because if not, it's going to be another long year for the Houston Texans and their fan base. And, hopefully we don't want to, deal with another tanking season. But if you guys are new, welcome everybody. We're going to be closing this out. But if you guys are new, you can, oh shit. And, don't want to forget about that. But, to close this out though, in short, like I said, the Texans really don't do the right stuff and actually get the right coaching staff and try to get the right players and the right personnel to try to at least turn this team around. True, it gets some forward progression. The McNair family is going to have to fortunately sell the team, and I'm going to stand by that. That's going to be, I'm going to put this on record right now. At the same time, but with that being said, you guys want to check out the membership program? We are definitely going to try to do some fan / members only type of live streams, because that's going to be really, we want to try to really get that. I would say kind of want to hopefully get that to fruition. And if you want to check out the merch, link is all that's linked down below as well. Like I said, the membership, if you get like the first tier of the membership, you're still going to be eligible, get the early access to, or will have access to, and I'll give you for those who are going to be members, potential members to here on the Philly Sports Podcast, I will give you like the StreamYard link, and and we can just talk some stuff, just talk sports, whatever, and and just have our members only live stream and stuff like that, and just kind of just have a little fun with it. But with that being said, if you guys are new, make sure you hit the like button, hit that subscribe button. Appreciate everybody that's hung out with me the last 40 minutes, just talking Texans and kind of just talking that Lovie Smith got fired and where the Texans should go. But with that being said, I'll see you guys on the next stream.